Hi everyone. Have you ever wanted to easily import and export your Google Calendar events to your WordPress website? This quick tutorial will show you just how to do that. Stay with me and don't miss a bit. In this video, we'll learn how to create an API key and use it to import or export Google Calendar events. Navigate to the MEC submenu on the left and click on Import, Export. I will later showcase how this process works if you own the Advanced Importing add-on. This page has two tabs for Google Calendar related events, one for import and another for export. The first field we need to configure requires your Google API key. Let's head to your Google Cloud Console to create an API key. Here, you can either select a previously created project or define a new one. Since this is a new project that needs its own key, I'll click on New Project. Let's give it a name and click on Create. You don't need to choose an organization to create the project. We'll need to wait a bit until the project is created. With that out of the way, click on Select Project. Now, we've switched to our new project, as you can see in the top left corner. Next, click on APIs and Services from the Quick Access bar. We need to select the APIs we want active on this project, so click on Enable APIs and Services. On the API library, choose the API you want to add to your project. Scroll down a bit and choose Google Calendar API from the Google Workspace menu. Click on Enable and wait a bit. With the Google Calendar API enabled, we'll need to create an API key for it, so click on the Credentials tab from the left side. We don't have any API keys currently, since we must first configure our consent screen information. So click on the Configure Consent Screen button. We've got two options here under User Type, Internal and External. Internal makes it only available to users who have been defined under our project's organization. But if it's external, we can define which users can have access to it. We'll need to choose external here. Let's give it an app name. Next is the email connected to our Google console, which we can select from the drop-down menu. Then you have the option to give a logo to your app. For authorized domains, you need to add whichever website MEC is on. So let's copy that website's domain and paste it. Click on Add Domain. Next, it's your developer email, which is for notifications and access. Let's enter that same email. Time to check the fields again: app name, user support email, domain, and developer email. Click on Save and Continue. In the Scopes step, you can limit the range permissions this API has. But I don't need to limit it for this API, so I'll leave it as is. On to the next step. Under Test Users, you can add the information of specific users who can test the API. I'll use the same email address to be able to test the API. Oops, seems I entered it wrong. Let's try that again. Now, with our test user added, let's move to the review stage. All the configuration information we've entered so far is available here. Now, let's head back to the Credentials menu and click on Create Credentials to generate an API key. With a key created, copy it for use. The error message says that the API key has no restrictions on it. If you edit it, you can add usage restrictions for it, but I'll leave it as none. You can also restrict the key to set an API. For example, I can limit it to only being used on Google Calendar, but I won't, since this API key might also be useful for other APIs I want to use. Back on the Credentials tab, you also need to set an OAuth for it to generate a client ID and client secret. Click on Create Credentials again and click on OAuth. Choose Web Application as the app type and enter a name for it. You can leave the authorized JavaScript origins as it is. Next is the authorized redirect URLs, which you can find in MEC under the Google Cal Exports tab. Copy it and add to the URL. Now click on Create. We have both the client ID and secret. If you click on Edit, you can copy it as well. Now let's try import a Google Calendar using the information we've created. First, enter the Google API key. Next, we need a calendar ID. Whenever you head to your Google Calendar, you can see your various calendars and create new ones. I'll click on the ellipsis for my calendar and then on Settings and Sharing. A couple of very important points here. First, the calendar needs to be public. Next, make sure the time zone on your Google Calendar is the same as your WordPress time zone, so the time of the important event is the same. And finally, you have the calendar ID under the Integrate Calendar section. Copy it and paste it in MEC. Click on Start. The start date and end date for which events to pull can also be defined. The connection to our Google Calendar was established, but since there are no events, nothing was imported. So let's create a new event for the 25th in Google Cal. Now another one from the 29th to 30th. We've got two events on our Google Calendar now. Let's click on Start again, and now both events have been successfully pulled. If our events have organizers or locations, then both these will be imported from Google as well. Let's check our events to see the new events that were successfully imported. Now, let's see how exporting to Google Calendar works. The export's configuration requires App Client ID and secret, plus the Google Calendar ID. We already created them in our OAuth, so let's just copy them both and paste them in the relevant fields. The calendar ID is the same and can be found under the Integrate Calendar section. Click on the Authenticate button. The success message is asking us to authenticate the app. Now, choose the Google account we have to authenticate. Now all the events on our MEC are shown, so let's say I want to export the football championship event, which is on December 21st. You can either choose them all or select an individual event. If we click on Export Attendees, the information of any attendees who have booked the event will also be exported to Google Calendar. Finally, click on Add to Google Calendar and wait for the success message. Back on Google Calendar, as you can see, the big football match has been imported with all its information, description, time, date, and time zone. If you own the Advanced Importer add-on, you can make similar Google Calendar imports. But what are the differences and which one is better? On the Advanced Importer menu, head to the Settings tab and next to Google, here we'll need to add a Google account first. Let's give it a name and then copy the client ID in secret from the OAuth we previously created. But before that, we'll need to change the redirect URL, so copy it and add it to the authorized redirects to the OAuths. Enter the client ID and secret and make sure to enable the options for Account Active and update existing events. Click on Add Account. Our Google account has been added, we just need to authenticate it. With authentication successful, we have access to it now. The difference between Advanced Importer and the normal Google Calendar import in MEC, actually MEC Pro, is that you have access to a scheduled import and sync. The sync feature makes it easy to sync events between our calendars without the need for setting up a cron job. I'll now explain some of the options on this page. You can choose what category is assigned to newly imported events if you enable the second option. The title of a Google Calendar event gets added as a category on Mac. Under Import By, you can choose which events are imported to Mac. If you select Event ID, you can enter specific event IDs from Google Calendar and only those will be imported. I'll keep it on my events. Next, you have Import Type as one step or scheduled. With the scheduled, you can determine how frequently the imports happen. If we do this, our imports actions will be shown under the Scheduled Imports tab. So let's go with one step for now. As for event status, it determines which events will be imported. The published, cancelled, drafted, or all of them. Here we can determine the date range for the import. And the Load More link option, it will add the Google Calendar events link to Mac and the user can view it on the single event page. Finally, if you enable Update, it will add this action to the Sync tab. I'll click on Get All Events from Google account. I think we'll need to refresh the page, so let's try again. Alright, it's showing us which account we want to get the events from. Click on Get Calendars. Now, it's showing the 4 events under the MEC on Google Calendar. Once we click on Get Event, the events will be listed, and since I've already imported them, I won't be downloading them again. You can also select the individual events as well. Now, I'll show you how the scheduled imports work. I'll choose the scheduled import type and set it to hourly. We'll repeat the same steps, but here, if I click on Add to Auto Sync, it will be added to the Sync tab. This whole account will be synced on the schedule. We can do this for scheduled imports as well, but instead we'll select Get Events and click on the Add to Schedule button. Let's add the Big Football Championship event to our schedule. If we check the Scheduled Imports tab, it has been added here as well. That was it. All you need to know to import and export events from Google Calendar using a Google API key. Importantly, the main difference between Mac Pro's default importer and the Advanced Importer add-on is that the latter allows you to sync and schedule imports easily without cron jobs. Hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to reading your thoughts and questions and comments below the video. See you in the next video.